If you're still translating every word in your head before you speak, you're slowing down your fluency without even knowing it. The truth is, translation is like carrying a heavy backpack while trying to run. It keeps you from moving fast. In this episode, I'm going to show you exactly how to train your brain to think in English automatically, so speaking becomes natural, effortless, and fast. No more hesitation, no more searching for words, just confident English that flows. Let's get started. Part 1. Why translating holds you back. Most English learners don't realize that translation is like a hidden brake on their fluency. You might think you're learning, but every time you hear a sentence in English and quickly change it into your own language before you understand it, you are training your brain to depend on translation. That habit slows you down, creates hesitation, and often causes you to lose track of the conversation. Think about it. Language is not only words, it's sounds, rhythms, emotions, and patterns. When you constantly translate, you break that natural flow. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone asks, "How's your day going?" If you have to first think, "What does that mean in my language?" and then plan the answer in your language before translating it back into English, you've already missed the natural speed of the moment. The result? You sound less confident, more robotic, and sometimes you can't even finish your thought. Instead, your goal should be to connect English words directly to meaning, not to your native language. For example, when you hear apple, you should instantly picture the fruit, not the translation in your head. When you hear, "How are you feeling today?" you should instantly connect it to the idea of someone asking about your emotions, not a sentence in your own language. The brain is amazing at building these direct links if you train it. And here's the truth. The fastest way to think in English is to spend more time in English without the safety net of translation. At first, it feels uncomfortable, like stepping into cold water. But the more you do it, the warmer it gets. The brain starts recognizing patterns, and words begin to come out automatically. You can start with small steps. For example, label objects around your home with their English names: mirror, door, kettle, pillow. Each time you see them, force yourself to think only of the English word, not the translation. Or choose 10 minutes a day where you talk to yourself in English about anything, your plans, what you're cooking, what you're feeling, but without ever translating in your head. If you keep doing this, you'll notice something magical. Conversations feel lighter, faster, and less stressful. Your mouth will start speaking before your brain has time to translate, because your brain will already be in English mode. Part 2. Building the English mode in your brain. Thinking in English is not about being perfect, it's about creating a mental environment where English becomes your default. This is what I like to call English mode. In this mode, your brain doesn't pause to check with your native language. Instead, it treats English as the first and most natural way to communicate. You've already experienced modes without realizing it. For example, when you're watching a movie, your mind is in movie mode. You're focused, emotionally involved, and not thinking about work or what you'll have for dinner. The same thing happens when you're playing a sport. You enter game mode and your body reacts without overthinking. Thinking in English works in exactly the same way. The trick is to give your brain enough consistent exposure so that it begins to associate certain times, places, or activities with English only. For example, you might decide that every morning while making coffee, you'll only listen to English podcasts or speak to yourself in English. Or you could have a daily English walk, where you walk outside and describe everything you see in English. The street is quiet today. The sun is bright. That woman is walking her dog. You can also create an English-only zone in your home. It doesn't have to be a whole room. It could be just your desk or a corner where you study. In this space, all the books, music, and conversations happen only in English. The brain learns quickly when it sees consistency. The more you use English in specific moments, the more your brain will start switching automatically into English without you asking it to. This is powerful because once your brain learns to stay in English mode, you won't even think about translating. It will feel as natural as speaking your first language. One more powerful habit: set your phone, computer, and apps to English. At first, you might need to guess or look up certain words, but over time, these small daily exposures train your brain to recognize English commands instantly. Instead of thinking, "Oh, settings means," you'll just know it without translating. Think of it like learning to swim. At the beginning, you might be splashing, swallowing water, and feeling nervous. But if you stay in the pool long enough, your body stops panicking and starts moving naturally. Your brain works the same way. Give it an English environment, and it will adapt faster than you think. Part 3. The power of direct associations. One of the biggest secrets to thinking in English is creating direct associations between English words and their meanings without going through your native language. This is like building a new set of mental roads in your brain, faster, smoother, and designed only for English. When you were a child learning your first language, you didn't translate. You didn't think, "The sound water in my parents' language means H2O. No, you simply heard the word, saw the water, and made the connection. That's the exact process you need to recreate now with English. Here's how. When you hear a new English word, don't ask, "What's this in my language?" Instead, connect it to a mental image, sound, feeling, or real-life situation. If you learn the word sunset, don't translate it. Imagine the orange sky, the smell of the air, the fading light. If you learn exhausted, remember the last time you felt so tired you couldn't move. This way, the meaning becomes alive in your mind, not just a translation on paper. The more senses you involve, the stronger the memory. For example, if you're learning the word crunchy, grab a snack that makes a loud sound when you bite it. Say the word crunchy out loud while eating it. Now, every time you hear or use crunchy, your brain will instantly recall that sound and feeling without needing translation. Movies, series, and real conversations are great for this. When you hear a word in context, pay attention to the facial expressions, body language, and emotions around it. Your brain is excellent at picking up these clues and locking the meaning in place. This is why children learn so fast. Their minds are constantly connecting words to direct experiences, not abstract translations. You can do the same by making your English learning as visual, emotional, and physical as possible. Here's a small challenge. For the next week, every time you learn a new English word, write it down, draw a quick picture of it, or find an image online. Then, use it in a real sentence about your own life. For example, if you learn delighted, you might write, I was delighted when my friend surprised me with cake. By connecting it to your personal experience, you're telling your brain, this word belongs to me now. The more you do this, the less your brain will feel the need to translate. Words will start coming to you naturally, linked directly to meaning. And that's when your fluency starts to explode. Part 4. Thinking in simple English first. One of the main reasons learners get stuck translating is because they try to think in perfect English from the beginning. They want the right words, the perfect grammar, the exact sentence structure, and when they can't find it, they freeze. This is the trap that kills fluency. If you want to stop translating and start speaking, you need to let go of perfection. Instead, start thinking in simple English first. This means you don't worry about advanced vocabulary or complex grammar. You focus on getting the message out quickly and clearly. For example, let's say you want to say in your language, I didn't have the opportunity to visit my grandmother because I was very busy with work and other responsibilities. If you try to translate that perfectly into English in your head, you might pause, forget words, or feel stressed. Instead, break it into simple English. I couldn't see my grandmother. I was busy with work. The idea is the same, and it's much faster to produce. The more you practice this, the more confident you become. Over time, your brain will automatically start adding more detail and complexity without you even noticing. This is the natural way language develops. Children don't start with perfect sentences. They start with short, simple words. Want water? Go park? Play now? Over time, they add grammar, connectors, and richer vocabulary. You can follow the same path. Here's a quick exercise. Choose any topic, like what I did yesterday, and speak for 1 minute using only simple English. Don't allow yourself to stop or translate. Even if you don't know a word, describe it in another way. If you forget umbrella, say the thing for rain. If you forget dentist, say the tooth doctor. This forces your brain to stay in English and find solutions without translation. The magic happens when you realize you can communicate even without perfect vocabulary. This removes the fear of speaking, and once the fear is gone, your fluency starts growing naturally. So remember, thinking in English doesn't start with fancy words. It starts with short, clear thoughts. Master those, and everything else will follow. Part 5. Surround yourself with English everywhere. If you want your brain to think in English automatically, you need to feed it English all the time. The more your mind sees, hears, and experiences English, the less it will rely on your native language. Think of it like living in a country where nobody speaks your language. Your brain will have to adapt. The good news? You don't need to move abroad. You can create that environment wherever you are. Start with what you already do every day. If you check your phone in the morning, make sure your social media, apps, and news feeds are in English. If you watch YouTube or Netflix, choose English content, ideally without subtitles in your language. Make English the language of your hobbies. If you love cooking, follow English recipe channels. If you like gaming, watch game reviews in English. If you enjoy fitness, follow English workout videos. When you connect English to something you already love, you'll enjoy learning instead of feeling forced. Another powerful habit is to name things around you in English. When you open the fridge, don't just see milk in your language. Think milk in English. When you step outside, think it's sunny, the road is wet, the air feels fresh. You're not just learning words, you're training your brain to describe the world in English instantly. You can also use mental captions throughout your day. Pretend you're narrating your own life in English. I'm walking to the bus stop. There's a man reading a newspaper. The shop is closed today. This constant mental practice rewires your brain to process daily life in English without translation. Finally, change your entertainment habits. Music, podcasts, audiobooks, make them English. Even if you don't understand every word at first, your brain is still absorbing patterns, rhythm, and pronunciation. Over time, these repeated sounds become familiar, and your thinking speed in English improves naturally. The key is consistency. The more you surround yourself with English, the more it becomes your brain's default setting. Soon, you'll notice something exciting. Even when you're not studying, English words and phrases will pop into your mind without effort. That's when you know your brain is truly starting to think in English. Part 6. Talking to yourself in English. One of the fastest ways to train your brain to think in English is by talking to yourself, out loud if possible, or silently in your head when you can't speak. This might feel strange at first, but it's a powerful technique that language learners and even professional speakers use to improve fluency. Why is it so effective? Because when you talk to yourself, there's no fear of mistakes, no judgment, and no pressure from other people. You're free to experiment, play with words, and practice as much as you want. It's like having a private English tutor who is always available, yourself. You can do this anytime. In the morning, describe what you're doing. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making coffee. I feel a little sleepy today. While walking, comment on what you see. The sky is cloudy. There's a car parked near the corner. That boy is riding his bike fast. When you talk to yourself, you're not just repeating words. You're training your brain to create English sentences instantly without translating. Over time, this becomes automatic. You'll start noticing that when something happens, the English words for it appear in your mind right away. You can also use self-talk to prepare for real situations. For example, if you're going to a restaurant, imagine the conversation before you go. Good evening, I'd like a table for two, please. If you have a job interview, practice answering possible questions. I'm passionate about working in this field because. Another great trick is shadowing. This means listening to native speakers and repeating what they say immediately, copying their pronunciation and rhythm. You can do this with movies, TV shows, or podcasts. Even if you don't understand every single word, you're training your brain and mouth to move in English naturally. And remember, it's okay to start simple. If you can't think of the exact word, describe it in other English words instead of translating. This forces your brain to stay in English mode and find creative solutions. If you make talking to yourself a daily habit, even for just 10 minutes, You'll be amazed at how quickly your thinking speed and speaking confidence grow. Part 7. Listening without subtitles. If you want to think in English, you need to train your brain to understand English without depending on written words. Subtitles in your native language are one of the biggest reasons learners keep translating in their heads. They keep you tied to your first language instead of letting your brain work in English. At first, it's tempting to think subtitles are helping you learn. And in the early stages, they can help you catch meaning. But if you keep using them for too long, they become a crutch. You end up reading instead of listening, and your ears don't get the training they need. Switching to English-only listening can feel uncomfortable at first. You might miss words, feel lost, or get frustrated. But here's the secret. That struggle is exactly what makes your brain grow. When your brain doesn't have the safety net of subtitles, it works harder to catch meaning from tone, rhythm, and context. Over time, this builds your listening speed and your ability to process English in real time. Start small, choose short videos, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and watch them without subtitles. Focus on understanding the general idea, not every single word. If you understand 50% at first, that's okay. The goal is to train your ears, not to translate perfectly. You can also watch something you've already seen before in your own language, a movie, a TV show, a scene from a series, but now in English and without subtitles. Since you already know the story, your brain can focus on the sounds and words instead of the meaning of the plot. Another powerful method is repetition listening. Take a short clip and listen to it several times over a few days. The first time, you might catch only a few words. The second time, you'll notice more. By the 5th or 6th time, you'll be surprised at how much you understand, and you didn't translate a thing. This type of listening also helps your speaking. The more you hear natural English without reading it, the more your brain starts copying its rhythm and structure when you talk. Soon, you'll find yourself saying phrases exactly how native speakers say them, without having to think about the grammar. The bottom line? Subtitles can help at the beginning, but if your goal is to think in English, you need to take them away and let your ears do the work. Part 8. Using English for real communication. You can read grammar books, memorize vocabulary lists, and watch hours of English videos. But if you never use English to communicate with real people, your brain will still want to translate. Why? Because real communication forces you to think fast, and that's where the habit of thinking in English is built. When you talk to a real person, you don't have the luxury of stopping for 30 seconds to translate in your head. You need to listen, understand, and respond almost instantly. This pushes your brain to skip the translation step and go straight from thought to speech. The good news is you don't need to live in an English-speaking country to have real conversations. You can find language exchange partners online, join English-speaking communities on social media, or participate in discussion groups on platforms like Zoom. There are also apps where you can meet learners and native speakers for free or for a small cost. If you're shy or nervous, start with text chats. Writing is slower, so you can think in English without too much pressure. Then move to voice messages, and finally, video calls. Each step will help you process English faster and with more confidence. Here's the key. Focus on understanding and being understood, not on speaking perfectly. Native speakers don't expect perfect grammar from learners. They care more about the connection and the message. If you forget a word, explain it in other words. If you make a mistake, keep going. Every time you do this, you're training your brain to stay in English mode. You can also make your communication more natural by preparing before conversations. For example, if you have an online English call later, spend a few minutes thinking in English about the topics you might discuss. This mental warm-up helps you start the conversation in English mode right away. And remember, real conversations are not just about speaking. They're also about listening. The more you expose yourself to different accents, speeds, and styles, the more your brain learns to adapt without translating. Think of it like driving a car. You can read the manual and watch videos about driving for months, but you'll never truly learn until you sit in the driver's seat and go. In the same way, thinking in English becomes natural when you use it in real, fast, unpredictable situations. Part 9. Training your brain with micro moments. Many learners think they need big study sessions to improve, but when it comes to thinking in English, small, repeated moments throughout the day are even more powerful. These are what I call micro moments. Short bursts of English that keep your brain connected to the language all day long. Why are they so effective? Because your brain learns better when you give it frequent reminders rather than long, infrequent study sessions. Just like you can't get fit by going to the gym once a week for 5 hours. You can't train your brain to think in English by studying once in a while for a long time. Daily micro moments work like mental push-ups, quick, simple, and effective. Here are some examples. While waiting for the bus, describe in English what you see around you. There's a man wearing a red jacket. The bus is late. The air smells like rain. While cooking, say each step in English. I'm cutting the onions. I'm boiling the water. I need more salt. When you see something interesting, create a short English comment in your head. That's a beautiful sunset. When checking your phone, change one social media comment or message into English before sending it. These moments are small, but they add up. They keep your brain active in English mode without overwhelming you. And because they happen in real life, your brain connects English directly to experiences instead of translations. Another great method is to ask yourself random questions in English during the day. What will I eat for lunch? How am I feeling right now? What's my plan for tonight? Answer in English, even if it's just a few words. This constant mini conversation with yourself trains your brain to switch to English instantly. You can also use reminders. Write small sticky notes with English prompts and place them in different spots. Your desk, your mirror, your fridge. Each note could say something like, describe this object in English, or what are you thinking about right now? Every time you see one, take 10 seconds to respond in English. Over time, these micro moments will create a habit. English will no longer feel like a study subject, it will feel like part of your everyday thinking. And when English becomes part of your everyday thinking, translation becomes unnecessary. Part 10. Patience and consistency, the real keys. Thinking in English isn't something that happens overnight. It's a skill that grows slowly, like a plant. At first, you won't see much progress, and it may feel frustrating. You might still catch yourself translating or struggling to find words, but if you stay consistent, those moments of hesitation will become shorter and shorter until they disappear. The truth is, your brain wants to think in English. It just needs enough training and time to build those new mental connections. Imagine carving a new path through a forest. At first, it's difficult to walk, full of obstacles, and easy to get lost. But every day you clear the way a little more. After weeks or months, the path becomes clear and easy to follow. That's what daily English practice does to your brain. The key is to combine patience with consistent exposure. That means listening to English every day, speaking regularly, even to yourself, surrounding yourself with English in your environment, and using micro moments to keep your brain in English mode. Don't measure your progress only by how perfect your speaking is. Instead, notice the small victories. You understood a sentence instantly without translating. You responded faster in a conversation. You remembered a word without thinking of your native language. These moments are proof that your brain is changing. Celebrate them. They are signs that you're building the skill that will make you truly fluent. Also, understand that mistakes are part of the process. Every time you make one, you're giving your brain feedback that helps it improve. Fluency doesn't come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from learning through them. If you stay patient and keep going, there will come a day when you realize something amazing. You're speaking, understanding, and thinking in English without even noticing it. That's when you'll know you've made the shift, when English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts feeling like part of who you are.